All right. Hello, and good morning. This is going to be video 794, I believe. And this is the first video on this side of the new year, 2022, I think. Yes. And just wanted to touch in and kind of give a bit of a just check in, check out, whatnot. This morning I gave myself an estrogen shot that killed the first bottle. So I've been on estrogen enough to kill a bottle of, not kaopactate, of estrogen, whatever it is I'm on. What am I on? Other than craziness. Estradiol. Estradiol Valerate. So if you took however much this was and divided it by 2 milliliters, that's how much I've injected myself with, 1 bottle's worth. And I think I'm supposed to be doing 1.5 milliliters. Is that right? I don't know. There's a weirdness to it. Maybe it's 0.2. Yeah. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. I'm supposed to do 0.15 milliliters twice a week, and when I pull it, I always pull 0.2 milliliters, because in the process of pulling it back, drawing it, switching the needles, and pushing the air back out of it, for some reason I lose, the couple drops that come out of the top, I lose a little bit of fluid, and by golly, I want my full 1.5 milliliters, so probably 2. This is an amateur, I don't know if I count as an amateur physician. Just, women's hormone levels go up and down anyway, so, whatever. If I'm plus or minus a few 0.0, 00 milliliters, I don't know what that would be. Anyway, it's not going to matter. Did kind of want to give a little bit of update this week. I guess I should figure this out. It's been at least a month or two. Let's see, I went to see him, I know, in October, and I didn't get the estrogen till December, so I guess it's been a month, 4 weeks. But this week I've noticed my breasts are really tender, like really, really tender. And then my hoo-ha down below is very, very sensitive. Very, very sensitive. Like if you were growing up and you used to ride like a bike, 10-speed bike, and you would slip and like rack your balls, and bam, slam into it. That kind of like feeling afterwards, where you're like, oh my God, what did I just do? That's the feeling in there, which kind of makes sense because the inside is made of the outside. Anyway. So physically, those are some things. Mentally, definitely a lot of mental changes compared to where I was like a month ago. Google created a commercial that's on TV right now that shows like the search bar. Excuse me, I'm going to blow my nose. Or equalize pressure. This one's a little off. Sorry. But anyway, and it's like the top searches of the year, and there's something like assistance and help. We had the tornadoes that came through, and so there's kind of a number of things that are just kind of going on, and it just makes me cry every time I see it. Just I can't, And then at the end of the year, last week, as we were winding down towards this weekend, I had a couple of scrapes at work that probably a year ago or whatnot, and just brush them off, and it just was like, I can't believe you said that to me, after I left, and it was just a nasty coworker, and I was just destroyed, So I tend to think that whatever's going on up here and whatnot is kind of working. But that aside, also let you know, I've asked that they increase my depression medicine. It's not Zoloft. What is it? Is it Prestique? Desophaxaline is the generic name of it. Because over the last, I'd say, it was definitely leading into, after all the garbage happened in October with me not being able to get estrogen, I just started to get really depressed and sad. And you know your body, you know your mind, and when you start to see white flags and red flags go up, you're like, hey, I need to take care of this. I need to do something about it. So, and other than that, things are just kind of, there are days I feel like I'm lucky to be alive. Well, I am lucky to be alive every day. That goes without saying, but you know what I mean. Just every day's a gift. That's why it's the present. What was the other thing I was going to say? But probably, and then I'll end on this one, I promise. Probably about a week ago, I had a bit of a, I'm not going to say an epiphany because that's not really the right word, but I was taking care of some business with a little friend of mine, a little electric friend, and I was actually able to reach the end of what I was trying to do, which is like huge for me. Huge for me. I mean, huge. It is. It takes a lot to get me to finish, and I finished. I got where I needed to go, and kind of as I laid there in bed, and just kind of took it all in. That feeling after everything goes out, and you're like, ah. And I just kind of thought about, it's like I accepted myself. I accepted my body. I accepted myself. I accepted the limitations that I have. I've just, and it sounds kind of silly, but it's like I accept myself. Self-acceptance. And if you've ever felt that, you probably know exactly what I mean. Not that I doubted myself before, but it was like to a degree, like I was always comparing myself to someone else, or, I just kind of let that go. And a lot of freedom and just letting that go. So, made me feel really good about myself and kind of has carried me through this week. Obviously, I'm 49 years old. I'm not going to be an 18-year-old, despite the little kid in me going crazy. And I had a couple of days this week, with the makeup. Had a couple of days this week. I had so much fun. But you probably saw the last video that I did a week ago when I was wearing all the green. But I think the post I did on Facebook was like, if you can, what was it? If you strive to placate your inner 8-year-old princess, I don't know, green fingernails. Decided this was going to be my color of the year, was green. And religion's kind of been a weird thing right now. And this has really probably nothing to do with being, well, it does kind of have a little bit to do with being trans. But over the course of the last year, and some of that has to do with coming to terms with your own existence, I guess. Because we're going to die someday. I'm going to die someday. Although I've always said it's the last thing I wanted to do. All kidding aside. Um, but when you accept it, oh darn it, lost that idea. Sucks getting old, doesn't it? What was I gonna say? Accepted myself. Religion. You know, um, there's a video, I made mention of this before. Julia Sweeney did a TED talk, and she also has a YouTube special about not necessarily losing her religion, but how she lost her religion. And over the course of it, it's kind of neat to see her thought process. But as a midlife person, one trans at middle age, 49 years old. And obviously this is going to be an individual thing. Everyone's going to feel differently. You're going to think differently than I think, or feel differently. It kind of, in my journey personally, I've kind of gotten to the point that, the way that I think about religion and God and goddesses and to a certain degree is you're almost stupid if you don't realize it's all made up. I mean, it's like Santa Claus, Easter Bunny. It's just a matter of how many Band-Aids you want to rip off that wound, how many layers you want to take off. But, you reach a point where you're like, everything's all made up. And I guess if you're vehemently in that way, then maybe you go more the atheist route and you say, well, there is nothing. There is no God. God's just something we made up to cope. And I guess in more my book, I'm more of an agnostic, and I say, well, there's really no way of knowing. I can't deny the fact that, I've gone into churches and I felt something. I felt moved by the Spirit, okay? In the same way that I've gone into cemeteries and I felt something, or I've been part of, there was a coven of witches out in Lexington, participated in some of their stuff, and I felt something. So, I mean, when people gather and you feel something you can't really explain at a certain place with a certain group of people at a certain time, you begin to wonder if there's just something more. You can't really quantify it. You can't really prove it. You probably can disprove it. The old joke about the church came to collect a donation, and the guy took some coins and money out of his pocket, and he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw this up in the air, and whatever God wants, he can keep. There are certain things that you can disprove, religion, but then there are some things that are just on the border that's just like, well, I can't really explain this phenomena. I don't know. And some people, my last boyfriend that I had, my only boyfriend that I've ever had, he was, he had the right antenna that he could pick up on that. He could pick up on ghosts and paranormal activity and people's auras and stuff like that. And so, could it be a whole crock of shit? Maybe, but I'm open to the idea. There are things we know about. There are things we don't know about. There are things we don't know about. Is it quantum mechanics? Is it something our brains just haven't gotten to develop that we can identify it yet? Maybe. Okay. Things like string theory. I mean, just, maybe one day we'll have it, But I like to keep an open mind, But definitely, I think over the last year, in light of the pandemic, most likely, a lot of I won't necessarily the religion, I was attracted to the philosophy of the Druids, and I still am, but that's what it is. It's a philosophy. It's not a religion, And the same way that I would love to be a witch. I just don't believe in it. I don't have that faith, and I know a friend of mine, Max, had said, well, you don't need religion to be a witch, I think they said something like, I believe in the energy or something like that. And again, from my point of view, I can't say it exists or don't exist, but, my own... I had a rock at one point in here. I had a crystal in here at one point, one of my daughter's crystals. I realized that just because, I don't hold a quartz crystal in my hand and I can't feel the pulse of energy. I know scientifically, I have a degree in geology, not to be a name dropper, but, certain crystal lattice structures vibrate. And definitely humans can pick up on that. So who's to say that you pick up a crystal or something? I mean, people say, different rocks had different qualities. Amethyst for this, and rhyolite for that, realgar for this, and who's to say that if you believe in it enough, it's not true, And I certainly don't want to crush someone else's dreams. I can only say that, well, for me in my life, it's a rock. But someone else would be like, I sense the energy. We'll, cleanse, ring my bell. We'll break the energy patterns, So, I'd like to believe that it is true. And I guess that's kind of where I'm at. But I've just seen too much death and destruction. A couple weeks ago, we had a series of tornadoes go through the area and, indiscriminately kill people. And I can't accept the notion that if there is a God, a loving God, a caring God, that such things would happen, And I think it was George Carlin who had a bit, and then I'll shut up, about, the holy plan, God's plan. God's got a plan. God's got to have a plan, the God's plan, And if you say to God, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, okay, thy will be done. Well, if you're going to concede that God's will be done, what the fuck are you doing praying to change his plan? Okay? What are you doing to change the plan? Why are you trying to alter God's plan? I'm praying for this. I'm praying for that. I'm praying for this. God's got a plan. It's going to happen. Why are you trying to fuck with God's plan? That's more George Carlin humor. The same way that, Sunday is God's day off. Why do people pray to him on Sunday? It wasn't Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce had the thing about the, just think if Jesus was born 100 years later, you'd have Catholic girls walking around with little electric chairs around their necks. The symbol of the Christian is the cross. Do you really think Jesus wants to relive that? 9-inch nails, okay? So, a little bit of humor, a little bit of reality, a little bit of philosophy in there. But, again, so I recognize for me, I'm open to it, but am I going to invest money into it? No. Time, maybe. I definitely am more attracted to the philosophy of it and the history. I can get into history. I can get into anthropology. I can get into sociology. I can get into science. I can understand why people believe the way that they did. And like I said, our attempts to fill in the blanks with things we just don't know. We hope. But Julia Sweeney's, like I said, her TED Talk, and she talked about when she kind of came to the conclusion there was no heaven. And she said, it was like my family abandoned me because they kept on saying, well, Grandma's looking down with, Grandma's in heaven. She's looking down at us. And Julia was like, no, she's gone. That's food for thought there. But whatever you believe in is obviously okay, the same way whatever I believe in is okay, as long as we don't try to tell each other what to do. And that definitely seems to be a big issue politically here in the United States. You have a group of people with an established minority that believe a certain way, and They're trying to push those beliefs on everybody else. Maybe one day it'll change. Maybe one day. Until then, we have each other, and the clock here is about to hit 2020. Here we go. Ready? 2020. No, 2021. No, is it 2022? What the heck? What year is it? 2022. My golly. I'm losing my brain. So on that note, I will sign off and wish you the best of luck in all that you do. And definitely, if you're trans, I feel you. Feel your pain. And make the best of what you got. That's all I can really suggest. All right. Till next time. Bye. Good luck.